We get a lot of isekai shows, and we used to get a lot of Chinubio shows, but rarely do we get a show that has a Chinubio that gets exactly what he wants. An isekai to a world where he can be what he wants to be. This is my thoughts on the first episode of The Eminence in Shadow. This is a series that's going to be running for 20 whole episodes already, so definitely excited for this series. Let's jump into it. My first impressions of the first episode. The Eminence in Shadow doesn't open up with our main character's perspective. It actually opens up with the perspective of Nishino, a girl that's going to a school. It looks like in her past she used to be a celebrity of some sort. It looks like some sort of scandal happened, which we get an idea later on what that exactly is, that she was actually attacked by a stalker. And so she's kind of been laying low for quite a while. But from her perspective, she tries to do a lot to kind of put on a facade. She wants to make sure that nobody hates her, everybody likes her, the teacher loves her, all of her students love her, she volunteers a lot. But there's one person that she cannot stand. And this is a boy in her class that doesn't even know her name. Calls her Nishimura, not Nishino. Well, over some time, we end up finding out that her butler or chauffeur that usually drives her home from school ended up getting attacked by some thugs. And those thugs come and find her as she's walking home and kidnap her. One of these thugs seems like your typical Yakuza gangster guy that just wants to have his way with her. But the other one seems to be some sort of guy that's ex-military that's working for random people that he doesn't want to work with, but he's just all looking for that thrill that he had from the military. Well, as things are about to get pretty dark, like she's gonna be reliving her experience that she had with the stalker that seemingly had his way with her. This boy that she hates so much comes crashing through the ceiling using 2 crowbars and just beats the crap out of both of these guys. A lot of emphasis put on the idea that he's been trying to find the perfect weapon in this world, and he found that it's crowbars. Because if a cop finds you with a crowbar, you know, you can kind of explain your way out of it, but they can be used as batons, as clubs, all this kind of stuff. This military guy's like, you gotta be that block of berserker, this guy that has apparently in the past been taking out entire gangs of bikers. Well, after this boy takes out both these guys, frees the girl, he just disappears. And this girl goes back to school. At this point, this boy that she hates so much finally remembers her name and is finally acknowledging her. Yes, from the other perspective of this episode, briefly here and there, we're getting a sense that this boy that she hates so much seems to view her as like an NPC, like she's not a named character. Additionally, it looks like he's training a ton. He's looking at crazy books about nuclear stuff, and he's always constantly training himself. You see that when he goes to take out these thugs, he actually takes off these wristbands, and they're like Goku like weight bands, always carrying around this bag that has like insanely heavy stuff in it. I think their first encounter that she has with him, he's standing at the shoe locker and he drops this bag and it just sounds like like metal bars just hit the floor. And it seems like it's all for a reason. This boy has had dreams ever since he was young, just like every other boy, you know, being a hero, being that person that trains and is the best. But he always acknowledged the idea that in our world, in this world, there's limits. Like, there's not a point which you breach a point where you become some sort of supernatural being. He even points out the idea that, you know, if I was surrounded by a bunch of guys with guns, yeah, maybe if I trained hard enough, I could probably beat up a couple of them, but then what then? I'm gonna still die. And yes, even if a missile comes down from the sky, I'll just evaporate. There's nothing that I can do in this world. This world has limits to what a person can be. Again, kind of given the sense that this guy is kind of like one of those Chinubio. He was believing that if he can train hard enough, he'll reach this point in which he's super powerful. But again, never achieves it. And as we see from this brief little news clip at the end of the episode, it looks like Truck-kun has had his way with him. And we get a little brief sense from this after-cast scene that he has now been reincarnated into another world, and he's now in a world that has magic and all this other stuff, so he's able to be that being that he wanted to be, this person that can excel further than the limits of mankind. And it looks like he's got a humongous harem of girls at his side. And that's unfortunately where we leave it for the first episode. I kind of wish this episode was a full hour-long episode, that way we can get at least a sense of what this character is like in this other world. But again, give us a brief sense of what he is and what his past life is, and so it is kind of refreshing. Typically with these isekai shows, it just goes straight into the other world, and we get a sense that they're here now and they're either looking for a way to get back, or they rarely are looking for a way to get back. They're just trying to figure out what this new world is. But I do like the idea that we have a character here that's a main character that in his previous life seen everything as almost like a game, almost like a fantasy. That again, this girl is an NPC, she's not important, so he's not going to remember her name. He's always training himself, trying to push his limits as a human being, wanting to... It doesn't necessarily claim that he wants to be a hero. The entire backstory segment, he's not trying to be a hero. He talks about that most people growing up want to be heroes, but it's not as if he wanted to be a hero. He just wanted to push the limits of mankind and become some sort of super being. Now, he calls it an eminence in shadow, whatever that is. Again, I'm going back into the whole Chinubio thing, but it is something that he's now able to obtain in this new world. And again, doesn't want to be the hero of this new world, doesn't want to be a villain of this new world. He wants to be an eminence in shadow, which I'm guessing is just somebody that works in the shadows. And it seems like a ton of girls are at his side, a ton of people. I think the synopsis indicated something to the effect that he's going to be in this other world and still have these delusion of grandeur, that there's this big thing happening, and all these people are going to follow him thinking that he's telling the truth, which I think will be a lot of fun. Now, granted, unfortunately, this first episode is not giving me a full indication of the comedy, and that's what seems to be a lot of people are pointing out, is this show is a solid comedy, and that's something that I'm really looking forward to, because just from the brief scenes that we get, it almost feels like the comedy's not trying too hard. It's not trying to make a punchline. It's not trying to make goofy music or anything. The comedy just happens. So yes, when this girl comes in and she's like, "Hello, how's it going?" He's like, "Oh, it's Nishimura, right?" "No, it's not Nishimura. That's not my name." "Oh, sorry, I didn't know it." Something else." Like, he keeps getting her name wrong. And again, kind of pointing out the idea that, oh, you're just a side character, when this girl is in fact the most popular girl in school. And again, she's technically a post-celebrity. He just doesn't care. Like, whatever you think that you're special for, it's not that special. And yes, technically having these little brief moments of dropping weights and stuff like that, showing that he's been training like super hard. And I love how, like, during this first encounter with the boy and Nishino, it's like they go out of their way to make like these really over-the-top sound effects. So like, again, when he drops his bag, it sounds like ka-thunk. And even when he puts his shoes inside the Foot Locker, it's like ka-thunk. It's kind of go out of its way to show that he's like really training himself. Or again, probably given the perspective of him thinking that he's something special, and so that everything he does has to be exaggerated. So again, it was giving a little bit of a taste of that delusion. And so again, these little subtle hints of what they're doing with the comedy already has me kind of sold on what they could possibly do going forward. So that's going to be the telling thing. It's like we've got a sense of the story. We got a little bit of sense of chemistry that they can possibly do in this series. Now, granted, we're doing a full reset with the new world. I already love the visual style. I love the character designs already. Like, all these girls they show at the very end, I'm like, I love design of every single one of them. And yes, tons of Beast Girls, which I am totally on board with. Now, my only fear that I have for this show so far, this is the only fear that I have coming in this first episode, too many characters. I am already very afraid of how we have way too many characters. I mean, we're only in the first episode and we get a glimpse of, like, I think 20 different girls that are with him at this and whatever he's doing. Now, it could be that all these girls don't really have too much story to them. They're just archetypes to just throw in some chemistry, but I'm already afraid of too many character syndrome here. But who knows? Again, we have technically 20 episodes to work with. We can give a pretty solid brief glimpse of each of the girls, and like I said, technically just have them there as chemistry based on their archetypes. But I hope they're not the sum of archetypes, and that's pretty much it. But yeah, it's pretty much got everything. It's got, again, some solid comedy already, really good visuals, great character designs, great setup. Main character's not annoying the hell out of me. We got ecchi, we got violence. It's got pretty much everything in it, and I cannot wait to see where it goes from here. I'm thankful it's on High Dive, but we'll see. But yeah, so far, I'm totally sold on it. That's my thoughts on the first episode of Eminence in Shadow. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. As always, if you did, make sure to hit that like button down below. Comment, let me know what you thought of the episode, or if you're going to be checking it out. Additionally, if you're new to the channel, make sure to hit that subscribe button so you get all my content. I do news reviews, first impressions, top list. If it's anime, it's pretty much here. I'll be doing first impressions of all the shows of this coming fall season, and I'm super excited for so many titles coming out. Additionally, if you want to support the channel more, we have a Patreon link, a tips link, and a super thanks button down below. I greatly appreciate everybody that supports the channel, and y'all take care.